I was a very lonely child. I was very strange.
Hello, friends. I'm David Miller. This is my studio, Primordial Creative. I am creating a diary of a couple projects I'm working on. So this will be my animation project diary. It is going to be a short film about the life of one of my heroes, Guillermo del Toro, and it's going to be entirely told in his words. Very similar to what I did with a Phil Oakes, another hero of mine, but I did a Phil Oakes animated project a couple years ago.
The name value, because everybody respects Phil Oakes no matter what he does, because he was always honest.
There's no place in this world where I'll belong when I'm gone.
Just scoured the internet for interviews and conversations with Phil and sort of pieced together a narrative out of his own words. That was piggybacked on a project I did in 2016 called The Innocence of Seduction.
And this is the beginning of a game of sexy horror and crime-worshipping violence. I don't know how you like it, but it makes me kind of sick.
Which was collaged audio from hundreds of radio shows and old comic books. It was just all collaged together from public domain sources. It's easier for me in my thought process to work with, pre-existing material collaged in the same sense like rap music used to be sampled or other kinds of electronic music, makes use of source material and blends it together. That's the way I think, and that's the way I like to work. Plus the burden of having, good dialogue and good story twists is sort of taken off my back. There's some other projects that are very similar to this. Mike Judge did a show called Tales from the Tour Bus, and it was animated, but it had, real life narrative. And I believe there was a movie that came out recently with a similar thing about, I haven't seen the movie, but I'll flash on the screen what it is I'm thinking of. It's February 2nd, and I'm about 3-4 weeks into the project. It started because, one, I was thinking of what could I do an animated film on that I'm passionate enough about, but also I had drawn in my sketchbook Guillermo because I've been going through like this very long, lengthy period of isolation and heartbreak and just, really retreated from the world. But Guillermo del Toro movies, I saw Nightmare Alley, and then I went and listened to a bunch of interviews with him on YouTube. And I know he's an INFP personality type like myself, but his story is so compelling and his thought process mirrors mine so much that I would think about his life and seek out his words and wisdom, and it helped me get through this really bad period for me. And so I drew him in my sketchbook, and then I had visited a friend in Tucson, which is about 2 hours away from where I live. And on the drive back, I thought, I already have this drawing. What if I threw that in Character Animator, threw some mouths on it, and see what happens? So Character Animator is the Adobe motion capture software that I use. And I have some mouths here. One of the ways that Character Animator works is you have the various mouth shapes, and then the audio recognizes what syllables you're using and pairs them with the mouth shapes. So taking my original drawing of Guillermo, erasing his mouth, putting in the mouth shapes, got a cool head, thought that was fun. Then I like to go to my local coffee shop and draw by the lake, watch the ducks, just started drawing hand shapes, And when I draw hands, I'm not like the greatest hand drawer in the world, but I find them very interesting and satisfying when you get it right. So the methodology on these, it really is just a matter of Googling a hand pose, doing my best to copy the original hand pose, and then finding a different one. So if we have a hand that's like this and we have a hand that's like this, I will like hold these up against the sun, one after the other, and then just draw in the air with my pit brush markers, which are a particular kind of marker I like to use because they have a really soft tip. It's kind of like sumier, or if you had a paintbrush and you worked with India ink, and a lot of manga artists work with this kind of brush. It is a style of drawing that I find really appealing because it's not me penciling out a whole thing, getting at the microns, thinking about various line width thicks. It's just like all instinctive. And sometimes that means my drawing goes like horribly wrong because I've laid down a permanent line. If it's something simple, like I made a mistake on a chin on a drawing, I just draw a new chin and then I'll Photoshop out the mistake. But other times I'm like, I love the nervous line. I liked in Peanuts when Charles Schultz got old and he had the wavy, nervous line to his characters. I think it adds something unique and special. And especially since the last animated project I did, the Phil Oakes one, I worked a lot in Adobe Illustrator because Character Animator has a function that if you have a puppet made as a vector, it has a wiggle function. So I applied that and I got the nervous line around my Phil Oakes animations, but there's something really kind of flat to that whole thing and not organic. I do my best in Illustrator to be organic with my drawings, but for Guillermo, I thought at the very least, at least my main character of Guillermo, he's gonna be totally hand-drawn. It's gonna be the same style as the comic project I'm working on because I wanna have a unification of style across everything I do, whether it's a film, a photograph, a drawing, it needs to come from the same source. So at this point, February 2nd, I've kind of built my Guillermo puppet. He has a bunch of hand shapes he can change. He's got good mouths, and then I drew extra heads, but without the mouth. And again, it was just a matter of, holding up my original drawing and then putting a piece of paper over it in the sun. So I'm drawing in the air. I'm not even drawing on the ground. And drinking my coffee and building my character. That's where I'm at right now, thinking about, I've got like hours of audio that I've sourced from his interviews, and I'm trying to cut it up to fit into both like periods of his life and thematic beliefs he has about filmmaking, life, sort of philosophical things. And then it's also got to fit with, his movies that he's made. And I know there's parallels between his actual historical events, his philosophical beliefs, and parts of his movies. So bought myself some note cards, and that's going to be like one of the things. I'm going to color code them, what goes together. That's where it's at, February 2nd. So I will check in 1 month with the progress.